We're waiting for the go live. All right, we're live. Contributors meeting. This week we are. There's any topics scheduled for talk about the RFP proposal. So I think mostly this week will just be statuses. I worked on can fixture. The thing that I've got an article coming out about it. The source spot to me for a long time, and then it was causing a bunch of issues because of its new way that we're doing things. Give me 1 second. So I've got this article coming out. Is the ability to now because of can set. So this article, and we're going to do a training on it next week. Goes through some of its other nice features and is pretty cool, if you ask me. Shows that you can do the logic of.
Justin, I think you're breaking up. Is it just me?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
I
just
wasn't sure if it was just me.
Okay. Earlier today, Mike in
No,
directly.
no,
Pictures,
not good.
cool.
Yeah, unintelligible.
All right.
All right. I guess if you get that worked out, maybe we can go back to you, Justin. I'll go. I'll do my status. I guess I'm trying to think what have I been working on last week. Been working on new releases of DoneSSR, which has timeouts. I've done that, so that's out. It's not out in DoneJS 0.9 yet. I'm going to update DoneJS CLI so that it will be part of DoneJS 0.9, and I'll release that on Monday. Then I've been working on also released StealTool 0.16, which has Julian's fixes for bundle naming. It gets all the bundle naming correctly now. So now I'm working on CanZone article. Brian had written actually 2 CanZone articles. The first one is about just the overview of what CanZone is and kind of like how it helps you out with XHR and it gives its APIs and whatnot. And the second article is about, it's kind of an argument in favor of using zones to do XHR. It's really more of an article, I guess, maybe about XHR. Or not XHR, sorry, SSR, server-side rendering. Anyways, so I'm working on the first article first. I'm about 80% through with my like first pass revisions. I want to do a second pass to make sure that the article makes sense kind of as a whole. It seems like there's a little bit of redundancy. I think it explains just that it tracks asynchronous stuff like 5 times. So just want to make sure I clean it up after that. So maybe hopefully today I can be done with the first article. I don't know when we want to release it, but then I'll work on the second article on Monday. And then probably Steel Docs after that. That's me. David, I think you might be the only other. Oh, if Julian's on.
I can go ahead. So I think the biggest thing this week was that I finished up the generator article and the guide. So if you go to the blog, there's the guide is an article and a training video that we did on Wednesday. I think it's really helpful to go through that to actually make your own functionality for DoneJS. And besides that, so I wrapped some of that stuff up also yesterday too. Besides that, we're working on CanJS 3.0 to make sure that it works without jQuery. And that's it for me, pretty much.
Does anyone, I don't know if Marshall, or did you have anything to talk about? Or Julian, can you hear us, Julian? Maybe you want to go? Julian?
I can go next.
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, so over the weekend I finished up adding support for like JWT tokens, JOT tokens to DoneSSR, and so it'll actually work with like should even work with any kind of OAuth provider or just like with Feathers or anything that uses an authorization header. So basically, just copies the header over that's needed into every request coming out of SSR, and then I've got an article in the works on how to use it, and then I have another article on how to make it work with Feathers, basically. And then I'm also working on getting Socket.io to work in SSR for apps that use only sockets instead of using any kind of XHR requests. And so I just started working on that yesterday, making a little progress though. The tricky part's going to be getting like the XHR cache, like coming up with a substitute for that so it works with sockets. So we'll see how it goes.
Always interesting, right? Because HTTP is well understood, and it's easier to work with. But now that sockets are in the game, is way more complicated.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I'd like to talk about that with you, Marshall, later.
Okay.
Julian, Julian, can you hear us?
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. Yeah, I don't know what to talk about. Maybe
okay.
we released Steel Tools 0.16. Yeah, we are now ready with multi-main, and the npm is now working correctly. I also looked into the talk we had last week about TypeScript, but I'm not really get too deep into this, so yeah, maybe we can put it in the future. So yeah, that's for me. Really short.
Cool. That's okay. No worries. I guess Sheriff's not here today. Probably still having issues with his network. Juan or Jason or Jan, did y'all have anything you want to talk about, or are you just hanging out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting close with CanJS standalone. Like they're just at this point, it's mostly so there were some like things. There were some functions from jQuery that had to kind of get copied and pasted over, and so now like a lot of it is just restructuring things to be in proper CanUtil files, getting rid of the redundant stuff. But it's close.
It's looking good. Now then we have to test it in IE.
Yeah.
At least IE 9 and up, but hopefully it's not going to be too difficult.
Fingers crossed.
Justin, do you want to give it a try again?
I don't know. Should I?
It seems better.
Clear.
Seems better. Okay. We'll try again. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I was saying is that really what I'm so happy about CanFixture is really CanSet. Even though I'm not super fan of CanSet's API in general, just what it's doing I like, and what it, if you think about it, what CanSet's really providing is a way to say, well, the standard service layer things like sorting, filtering, ranges, pagination, it gives you a way to describe those things. Act actually uses that description to be able to database would normally do. So with that description, you can create a store, a fixture store, which is really using CanConnect under the hood to do this, provide it initial data, and then you get a service layer, a RESTful service layer that supports things like, well, I can say my start index, indexes are 0 based. So if I wanted item 1, 2, and 3, I could go 1 to 3. And then this will make a request from start 1 to end 3, get 3. But it also works with sorting, so I could sort by year. Now I'm doing the same thing. I could filter. I could just show only the Nissans. And I could get only the certified ones. Oh, there's a bug. I'll have to look into that. There should be a certified. I don't know why nothing's showing up. Well,
can you show your client code?
I will figure that out. Yeah, the client code is really basic. I'm just taking, well, I'm just it's very basic kind of jQuery-esque client code where I've got a bunch of inputs, and what I'm doing, let me check and actually make sure this is, oh, there is no, oh, wait, there's certified, okay. Not sure what's happening there. But what I'm doing is whenever any of those inputs change, the selector inputs, I am essentially reading their values and converting that into the parameters used to make a request. So the set, which is, you could think of as your param. So I'm making sure start and end and things like that are numbers. I'm going to go, I guess I am going to go into this in more detail on Wednesday with James. But with the parameters, I can just make a request to go get cars given those parameters, and then with the response, I draw up a table. The other cool thing about this is that it, like if let's say, oh, I know why there was none, actually. It's because my start index is at 1. So there is no second certified Nissan. If I do 0 to 3 and then do certified, it'll show up. So it's actually smarter than I am, which is nice.
So no bug after all.
Huh?
So no bug after all.
Yeah, no bug after all. So the cool thing about this is that it respects modifications to your data set. So if I were to change the data by making a put or a create, the same filtering and apply would then appear on that set. So it really is like a little mini database. I can remove that Nissan, and if I were to redo the same request, well, now it's going to say no cars. And let's say I changed it to give me everything again. Well, that data is actually gone, just like it would be actually gone in a database or on the server. So what I like about this is, at Pitovi, at least, it's very rare that the service layer is actually working when we come to a project, or working the right way. What this allows us to do is very quickly create a fake service layer that has a lot of the filtering and sorting and things like that would normally be necessary in a larger application, and start building from that RESTful service layer pretty much immediately. So I'm a fan of this. So that's it. And then the rest is I'm starting to work on CanDefine, and that's what my big goal is going to be for the rest of the for next week, is getting that so it's ready to be used in 3.0.
Can you link to that? Send a link in the chat or whatever.
Yeah. I sent a link to the.
Oh, sorry, I'm in the JS bin.
Yeah, but this has the JS bin in it. But
it's in there right there.
As well. Yeah. So the article will have that in there. So, and then I guess the only thing I could show just really quick is can't fix. Actually, this is something to talk about. Here's one thing that we could talk about. Okay, how to do documentation is a very annoying thing. Like, just I don't know. It's one of those things that maybe has no real good, great answer. Anyways, I redid CanFixture, and this is all in the README, which is nice for something the size of CanFixture. But as we start making more of CanJS done this way, you know, how do we manage the documentation? My current thought, my current hope is that document.js can be made to actually generate a README. So we'll still do document.js based, documentation, but all the signatures and things like that. Well, we could just have an export that reads all of those and generates something very similar, where, well, you've got your, H2s for every signature, and your type defs are also defined. And it just takes the the description, the example, anything else, and just tries to make this kind of shorthand for it. I don't know.
So it converts Markdown to Markdown.
Well, it converts
it
converts a bunch of disparate markdowns into a single kind of, I would say, maybe lighter weight. I don't know.
You don't have the tags.
Yeah, and part of it is this has much less docs than does CanJS's version of its fixture docs. Right? Its fixture docs go into a little bit more details, more examples, things like that. It's just for beginners. This is the best thing, right? I guarantee CanFixture will get more use out of a site like this, and all in GitHub and structured in a way that people understand, than it being tucked away in, say, CanJS.com's API. But the problem is that advanced users, I don't know if this docs are going to be good enough for them, right? Because it doesn't go in detail into the nuance of every single optional value and give examples for that. There just isn't room in kind of a single page like this. So we need some way to balance it out, I think. Is kind of have your READMEs, your overviews, but then have your very thorough documentation. And then again, the biggest.
Sorry.
Well, the biggest
what
problem
do you do about?
Is it just one more point real quick? The other biggest problem is demos of client code, right? The best you can do from a page like this is link to a JS bin, right? But you can never see it in line, which is also annoying. So sorry, Julian.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry. What do you do about versions? How your documentation, the versions difference between CanFixture 2.2 or 3.05?
So your 2.0 docs would presumably, you'd go to the release, and then that README would be for the 2.0 docs.
Okay.
So it's kind of easy in here to do that. And the nice thing also is releases. So this is nice, right? So I've got the different release. Here's the 03 there, 021. It's got release notes and the zips. Very nice. But really just GitHub READMEs are not made for, well, either a lot of detail or for client-side examples, where you sometimes want to click stuff, play around with it, demo pages.
But you can write in wiki, or aren't you? There's a wiki you can provide additional information about.
Yeah, but then it's not versioned.
Examples or detailing.
Yeah, but then it's not versioned, is the problem with that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you could also we could inside here create a docs folder and then have markdowns, and then this links to that. As another thing. And the other nice thing is just okay, of course, then if someone creates an issue, now I added a contributing guide. There's this one contributing guide in a central place. It's very nice to have this GitHub be kind of a working system, but that's going to break down if we have can component, can compute, can map, can define, all of those things. If we try to actually do that the same way, it's going to be annoying for users. So we've got a challenge.
Do you about canned fixtures? Do you hear about Swagger.js?
No.
No. Okay, it's an API definition, yeah, module. Maybe we can talk about that. I heard about Swagger in a JS meeting or meetup, and it's very simple and very helpful for defining API data layers. So you can maybe we can combine Swagger with canned fixture, or provide a Swagger import for canned fixture.
How do you spell it?
Maybe
SWAGGER.
Swagger.
Oh, Swagger.
Oh, Swagger, yes, like the music. Sorry, my internet connection is very bad. Maybe you can look into it and show the others.
What is it?
If you found something.
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, is it like can connect? I don't.
No, it's API definition manager, where you can where you can define your API structure, and in example like a file, and you have all, and you can export that to the server and run a little server that provide that API. But you can, there's an online demo, an online tool where you can click your API together, and this is very helpful. Maybe we can look into that and provide some sort of that. It's very cool.
We've seen it in our client project. It is pretty nifty. It looks like it's just this front-end application that grabs a JSON object and then builds the entire documentation off of it. And then it styles it up. It's pretty cool.
And it has
so we don't need a dependency for that, but we can provide an import for that, where you can define your API in Swagger and import that JSON file into canned fixture, maybe something like that, and then you have your whole API in canned fixture without setting all that set algebra, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be fine. The only issue is that you're going to need a set algebra for can connect.
Okay.
So that's why, if we could have a layer that would take this and convert it to a set algebra, but you need the set algebra for can connect. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Like we could make something that converted this to a viable set algebra. The only issue, though, is does this actually define the behavior? Not what I mean by it can define the properties of the service layer, but does it actually describe, like, this is for sorting, this is for filtering, this is for pagination, in the same way that can set does?
I'm not sure. Maybe we can. Maybe I looked in. I can look into it and can write an article in our forum, and we can talk about that.
Because that's a big thing. There would have to be some meta information where it'd say, like, well, longitude is really, this is a maybe it says when it's saying in query, maybe that's what it's saying. It's like a filter, but I think it means in the query string, where we'd want to see.
Yeah, that's query string.
Yeah, we'd need to see it like, well, this is actually performing a sort. That's the big thing that set algebra is providing. where it's not just like a definition of the properties, it's actually the definition of the properties behavior in a kind of pseudo SQL clause way, where there's different clauses of SQL, where, sort, limit, offset, things like that, and it's kind of linking those up together.
Yeah, maybe there is something, but I'm not really sure. So maybe I can look into it and we can talk about that.
That'd be cool. I mean, it'd be awesome if like a lot of people are using this. That maybe for can set, all you'd have to do is just say like, well, this is, I don't know if it enter clause is start right. Oh, this is pagination. If it start, so this would be like paginate, something like that. If you could do stuff like that, that, and then other clause, these other things are for filtering or whatever. That could output a valid set algebra.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Anything else?
Do we want to talk about your DoneJS issue about how's the future of the
governance
member and
yeah, we could talk about it if you guys have any thoughts now, but next week was going to be the week that it was more we would try to come to conclusions, but I guess now is a good time to talk about it so that we can think about things for the week.
Yeah, any thoughts?
What do you think, Julian?
Yeah, my thoughts, I think it's a good way, but I also agree Sheriff's comment. He mentioned that maybe we are overlost in our RFC, I think it's called. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what should I say? I love the way we can vote for some feature and make that feature ready for DoneJS or CanJS. But I also agree with that we need someone who has lead and provide and take the information and can spread it to the others. And yeah, I don't know how to say it in English so good, but I'm agree with that it's good for the project that we have a vote for features, but I also agree that we need someone who lead the project for that we are not lost in our democratic road.
I think that maybe the unanimous consent is something that you can, like in a lot of deliberative bodies, you can just say, unanimous consent, and if nobody says anything, like says, oh no, let's actually vote on this, then you just kind of operate under an assumption of shared agreement. So I don't think, like, we definitely don't have to vote on, we should not vote on every feature request. I think really this is for when a feature request is or priorities are there's a disagreement about that, a way to come to a conclusion. So if I'm like working on can define next week, right? I'm going to operate under unanimous consent principles. Like, if someone's got a big problem with it and be like, no, you should be we need to prioritize this above, then sure, someone can raise their hand and say, okay, let's put this to a vote. Let's submit an RFP to reprioritize in this way. Without that, then we're just kind of doing the same stuff we do right now. It's more for when people are like, well, like a controversial one a year ago or 2 years ago was like, should we do Steal? Right? or should we just drop Steal and just focus on CanJS and things like that? Occasionally, and maybe you guys don't see this, but from Butovi, this definitely exists. There's prioritizations that are controversial, and this is a way, or features, or things like the the syntax bindings were really controversial. There's just a lot of opinions going on about that. So for certain things that are like touch points of what people care about, this is a way for us to make those decisions, but it should not mean we're voting on every feature request that comes in. Really, it's only there for if someone really wants to come to a conclusion, then it's there.
A community-based conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So yeah,
what is
something
if,
affects.
sorry.
Go ahead. No. You go.
Yeah, my internet connection is bad, so it's a little delay in that. So what is if we have some community-based vote about, and some users don't agree that feature, and the problem is that the feature has to be done or have to make. So how we can how is the user or the contributor provided to make this or to make this feature if you not agree with that?
So I put this in the actual issue. This was like towards the end of my suggestions, is that any feature or development or reprioritization has to have a champion, which is basically one of the people. There's got to be someone who's going to say, yes, I'm actually going to do this. So the whole community, we could, three people, let's say hypothetically, me, you, and Prashant, and one other person, David, all agreed. So we have a majority right now. All agreed that Steal needs to, I don't know, have a 3D interface for the command line tool, right? But none of us want to do it, and we want to make Matthew do it. Well, if it doesn't have a champion, if it doesn't have someone in the majority saying, yes, this is going to be me, and I'm totally going to own it and make sure it happens, then it's like a null vote. It doesn't matter. We could all raise our hands and say, yes, let's do this, but if there's not someone who's actually going to do it, it doesn't matter.
You can't force someone to do something, right?
Yeah, we can't force someone to do something that they don't want to. Basically.
But yeah. So, but what about there's some stuff. Maybe this is what Julian's referring to. There's some stuff where maybe somebody does want something and they are willing to do the work to do it. However, it's still voted no. That can happen. We might say, no, we don't want that feature. We don't want the 3D interface. We don't care if you want the 3D interface. They can still create the 3D interface themselves. We got to make sure our tooling is extendable in that way.
Yeah. So I mentioned this also in those notes, is that because of the federated nature now of our tools, because that NPM provides us and how everything is kind of mostly becoming broken up, should be easy for most features now to go off and just prove us wrong. And then you can recreate an RFP to say, hey, now look at how awesome this is. Everybody really likes it. You guys really should think about bringing this back in. I mean, it sucks for a person to be rejected and have to go through that, but I think you can also an example I think is Marshall was like, hey, let's change the let's change the syntax bindings again, right? And I think it's, if the RFP was which I kind of suggested, which was hey, let's first I think you could very easily get us to agree to, let's make this possible, right? We're not changing APIs, but let's open up the binding logic so he can access it, and then basically add his own can view literal bindings plugin, and you could start using that and document that to make that possible. I think that we as a group should value that, and I think not reject many of those RFPs. That would be a weird. I think that would be a very unusual circumstance for us to say like, nope, we're not even going to make it. We're not even going to make what you want to do possible. So
sounds to me like a way to kind of encourage engagement with a few protections to ensure that we're working on, technically speaking, the right things. But allow us to start conversations and explore ideas that could potentially become priorities. I dig it.
cool. Anything else? I guess we'll talk about it more next week. I mean, I think look over that, and if there's specific criticisms, otherwise, maybe next week that's our first vote. Is we get to be like the founding fathers and instill this Constitution.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you.
See you next week.
Yes.
All right.